share today. We actually work it out in several weeks. Well, we as human beings, we're nothing but self-sufficient. We can do it all ourselves. That's kind of how we live. Unfortunately, it is actually our greatest weakness. The tendency is to design our own plans, chart our own course. We formulate our own recipes. We build our own defense. We broker our own investments. We plan our own medical treatment. And then we ask God to bless what we've done. We really have it kind of backwards, really. Let's go to Isaiah 55. I'm going to read verses 8 and 9. And then we're going to go to Psalms 36:6. Isaiah 55, verses 8 and 9. Simply says here, for my thoughts are not your thoughts. Neither are your ways my ways, saith the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. Psalms 36:6. Says the righteousness, or thy righteousness, is like the great mountains. Like to focus on the latter part of that verse, or just the middle part of that verse. Thy judgments are a great deep. His ways are not my ways. His thoughts are not my thoughts. You have to kind of take and pull that into perspective. You take, how old is Titus? 9. Titus is 9. Can you imagine as a 9-year-old being responsible for your own life, your own destiny? I mean, to make your own way in the world. And here we are, and our life is but like a nanosecond really in time. I mean, it's not even that. It's the flower, the word says, that blooms this morning. By this afternoon, it's gone. It's faded. And yet I would like to give God direction. I would like to take and tell him that, you know, I don't need you much. It's like I am capable of charting my own course. Can you imagine 9-year-old Titus saying to his parents, you know, I'm perfectly capable. Compared to my Father in heaven, I must have a brain about the size of a pea, if even that. I mean, he's the creator God, the sustainer. And so the psalmist says here, thy judgments are a great deep. One of our problems is trying to figure out God. And the psalmist says that God's decrees are full of mystery. His judgments are impossible for our finite minds to fathom. He's not indifferent with us. That's not why he's saying, you know, my ways aren't your ways, or my thoughts aren't your thoughts. His judgments are great deep. And because we can't figure it all out, anybody here have got life all figured out? Because we can't figure it out, we sometimes discount God's wisdom. We doubt the intelligence behind God's plan for our lives. And most of us are tempted when things in our life are not going. We're not so much tempted when they're going well. We'll stand up in the service, things are going well, we'll say, man, God just blessed me today, you know. But if things are not going well, then it's like, well, you know, maybe that was just coincidence. It was accident. It was just bad. Or, are you mad at me, God? I mean, really? When it's good, it's God. When it's bad, it's the devil. What is a mystery? Have you thought about that much? Is it something that has absolutely no design or a lack of intelligence? Or is it something that's different and difficult and impossible to explain or understand at the moment? According to the psalmist, again, a mystery is something that is profound or hidden. It is a great deep. Thy judgments are a great mystery. I can't see the plot that's there. I can't see the purpose that's there. It's beyond my ability at the moment to see and understand. But it doesn't mean that it's not there, because it is there. Isn't that kind of what makes a mystery fascinating? You read the novel, it's a mystery. You watch the movie, it's a mystery. It's so deep, it's so well thought out that we're unable to fathom at any given point the design or understand the purpose. Let's go over to Jeremiah 29:11 really quick. A passage of scripture that is one of my favorite that most of us can quote. Jeremiah 29:11. Israel in the middle of judgment, not understanding what is going on in their life. God says to them in Jeremiah 29:11, he says, "For I know the thoughts that I think towards you." See, my thoughts aren't your thoughts. My ways aren't your ways. But I know the thoughts that I think towards you, saith the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you an expected end. I have a plan for your life. Yeah. Let's look at Psalms 37:23 really quick. Back to Psalms. Psalms 37:23. Says the steps of a good man are ordered of the Lord. Is your Bible got the word good italicized? Mine does. You know what the word good, it's in parentheses here. You know what it means? Really? It was just put there by the translators. That's what it means, to help us try to maybe understand. But it really wasn't in the manuscript itself. So you can say the steps of a man. And man is not, it's not a gender, it's a race. We got women and we got men. The steps of a man are ordered by the Lord, and he delighteth in his way. Some people would say, well, not many people can discern the plan. I'd be willing to say this, not many, but I don't know anybody that really understands the plan. God says, I have this plan for you. I don't understand the plan, but God has a plan for me. The steps of a good man or a good woman are ordered by the Lord, and he delights in his way. A plan that's so involved and so intricate, far-reaching, that it is the great deep that the psalmist, the mystery that the psalmist was talking about. It's hard to understand. It's difficult to fathom. You ever notice with a mystery book, you get right to the end. It may be the very last chapter of the book. Sometimes it's actually maybe the last paragraph or the last sentence in that book before you finally go, oh. Sometimes the movie is the same way. I mean, you get to the very end of the movie. Robin loves them little Hallmark movies, you know. You can watch a little Hallmark. They're not very deep, I'm telling you. You can watch the Hallmark movie and get up and wander in the kitchen, get you something, come back out, get you a cup of coffee or something and wander back and say, you aren't going to miss much. I mean, the plot hasn't changed, but there was a lot of filler while you was away. That's all was happening, was just filler. But boy, I've watched the movies. I watched The Matrix the other night again, the old Matrix, and it's, man, you don't wander around the room when that movie's going on if you've never seen it before. Yeah. You're going to miss something that, I say, Robin, you got to sit down, you got to watch all of this movie. If you don't, you won't understand the movie. That's the way a great mystery is. I mean, it's the last few moments of the movie. Cody will sometimes call the house. He did this week. It was like we're watching The Matrix and the phone keeps ringing, bring, bring, and Robin said, who's that? And it's just like, it's Cody. It's like, we didn't answer it. He probably thought, Mom and Pa don't love me. They don't love me at all, man. They won't answer their doggone phone. Then if we answered, it spoiled the whole movie. Again, the psalmist says, thy judgments are a great deep. They're a mystery. They're full of mystery because the picture is really incomplete. The story hasn't been finished. Had a guy that he used to ride motorcycles with, and that was one of his favorite sayings. You don't know the big picture. You don't see the big picture. There's a part of this big picture you maybe will find hard to believe. But we are all, every one of us here today, are an integral part of God's plan for the ages. Do you know that? Yes. We look at this book and we think, well, they were all a part of God's integral plan for the ages. Abraham and Isaac and Jacob and all of the patriarchs, and then out there in the New Testament, the 12 disciples and whoever in the, out throughout the book of Acts or the epistles or whatever, and it's like they were all an integral part. But I have a word for you today, and that is that you're an integral part of God's plan for the ages. And you may think at times, that how God has dealt with others has absolutely no application in your life. Whatever the circumstances are in your life today, that conclusion is really a really bad mistake on your part. Because what it's going to do is leave you not understanding your place within the body of Christ. You have an integral part. It's not by accident. God had a plan for your life, and is a part of that big picture. It's part of the big picture of what God is doing in the earth today. And when you look at the big picture, whether it's the movie, the book, or the events in the scripture, in biblical history, you know what the ultimate goal of this big picture has been? If you want to know the ultimate goal, read the closing chapters of the book of Revelation. All of God's aims and purposes and actions is one throughout history. Only one. The selection and preparation of an eternal companion for his Son.
Absolutely.
That's what Revelation says.
Yes, yes.
You get out there in the book of Revelation and it talks about the bride of Christ. Yeshua Messiah, Jesus came for one and only one purpose, and that was to give birth to his church, to give birth to his bride. So what is the present age all about, really? What is this moment, our moment in history, all about? Really, I believe, as we've been studying this book of Esther, we watched that video this week, it's a consummation of God's plan. Do you know that you didn't find God? And that's the actual truth. You didn't find God. It wasn't like one day you decided, I'm going to go look for God. No, God has looked for you. He found you. He chose you. That's what happens in that bride thing. You know what I mean? He chose you. And then once he selected you, you know what he's been doing in your life? He's been training you. There's been preparation taking place. Every one of you's training process has been different, even in the natural. I mean, I look around this room, and it's like, wow. We have a shift commander out there at the penitentiary. We have somebody that part of the whole process up at BLM. We got a pilot that's flying the lines. We got an officer at a bank. Huh? I got Head Start, and we got collection agency, and missionaries, and an IT person. We got the refinery. Huh? The uranium industry. We got the leper colony up there at the Methodist Church with all the kids. It's like, even in this life, all of that doesn't happen by accident. Every single one of you has been a process in your life. The newspaper, it's been a process in your life.
Yeah.
And spiritually, it's the same. It's a process in your life. So God sometimes allows us to go through stuff. Why does he allow us to go through stuff? It's a part of the training in our life. It's the only way that it's going to happen, and that's the truth.
Yeah.
So if this present age is important, there is no age that is simply more or less important. Do you know that? It's the truth. I kind of like that scripture over there in Thessalonians where, the little Thessalonian church, they had this fake letter, supposedly maybe from Paul, that the day of the Lord had already taken place. And of course, they were on a brand new journey, and it'd be like, what about Mom and Pa that passed away last week? What about brother or sister that passed away last week? And so Paul makes this statement. He says that, one isn't going to get to precede the other, basically. He says, in essence, that the dead in Christ, they'll rise first, and we that are alive, and we'll be caught up together with them. There's not one particular group that's more or less important. Let me ask you a question. We talked about evangelism this last week at Bible study. Who's more important? The person that sows the seed, the person that waters or cultivates that seed, protects it, or the harvester? Now, I'll tell you, in our mindset, this is what we often think. The guy or gal that harvests, they're most important. I led this person to Jesus this week, and let me tell you all about it. And yet I know that there were people that sowed the seed in that somewhere in that person's life. And they didn't get to see the harvest. They just sowed a seed. And somebody else came along and they watered that seed. Somebody else pulled up the weeds. Somebody chased away the critters. And then that other person got to be the privileged one to take and harvest the crop. So which one is more important? They are all important. And that's what the Word tells us. There is not there is no one that is more or less important in the whole journey. You and I at this moment in time are playing an extremely important role. Let's look at Romans 15, 4. Romans 15, 4. And then we'll go to 1 Corinthians 10, 11. It says, for whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we through patience and comfort of the Scriptures might have hope. Wow. Okay, 1 Corinthians 10, 11. It says, now, all these things happen to them for our ensample, and they are written for our admonition, upon whom the ends of the world are come. You and I, who constitute the church, are those upon whom the fulfillment of the ages has come. God is telling us through these recorded experience that He's working with us in the same way that He was working with them. As He worked with Abraham, as He worked with Isaac and Jacob, as He worked with the patriarchs, as he worked through Peter and Paul and the rest of those men and those women, He is working with us. And when the whole story is finally complete, we're going to see the meaning. At the end of this mystery, we're going to see the meaning of each portion of the plan. Even though at this moment I don't see it. I don't understand the role. I don't understand the part I played. We'll look back and see this great mystery and see that we could have not afforded to miss even one little part of the plan. The Bible says the angels are even curious about this thing. They're watching it. They don't even understand all of it. It's deep for them. It's a mystery now. We don't understand our lives or the lives of those around us. It doesn't make sense. There's been a place in your life where there's times it's like, it doesn't make sense. That's been in mine. I'm telling you the truth. Been a place in your life, James, where it don't make sense? Place in my life where it doesn't make sense. I think of the sorrows or the disappointments, the traitorous friends, the deception, the cruelty. I think of some that have died before their time, and you're trying to wrap your brain around it and figure out why. I think of the setbacks. I think of everything that we feel is undeserved, and there are a lot of things that you and I feel are undeserved. And that's one of the accusations sometimes of Father God. You know, all of the plots, all the part of the plots, grandly conceived and brilliantly implemented, we don't understand. And it hurts and it pains us at moments. When I look at the psalmist, when I look at David, I mean, think of him for a moment. I mean, Samuel goes out there and anoints him to be king. And it's not long following all of that. You know, he was a gifted musician. He'd play the harp when when Saul would have his black cloud moments. He kills Goliath. He marries Saul's daughter. I have arrived. All of the good stuff in my life. Here I am. And then they begin to sing the song, you know, Saul slew his thousands and David his 10,000s, and Saul gets jealous and drives him from the palace, and for 20 years, he runs for his life. His picture's down at the post office. He hangs out with some gnarly friends. Saul marries his wife off to somebody else. Blew despair and agony on me, and if it wasn't for bad luck, I'd have no luck at all. But you know what God was doing in that man's life? He was preparing him for his destiny, his future. That's what he was doing. He would become the great warrior king, surrounded by a group of men who were fierce in battle. He would bring Israel into a place of peace. Solomon would be one of those that walk in and think, yep, I did it all. Huh? It's the truth. Yeah. It really was dead. But one thrill of anguish and fear, one blessing unmarked or unpriced, one difficulty or danger avoided. How great would have been the loss in the book of Psalms? Huh? The book of Psalms in which people today, people around the world find expression for their grief and their pain and their praise. It would have all been missing. I think of that 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. You know, begins to describe the provision that his great shepherd king provides. And then he talks about, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. How did he come to write those words? He wrote them out of his life. That's how he come to write those words. Without one element, something in David's life would be missing. You know why a lot of folks in our culture today like the horoscope and the Long Island medium? And they think somehow if I knew the future, then I could be the captain of my ship and I could make all of the right decisions. You know, you're down at the Chinese restaurant and you pop open your fortune cookie and it's like, man, this is what's going to happen to you today. And so you're comparing fortune cookies with everybody around the table. Oh, look at mine. I think one of the reasons sometimes that God's kids often chase the prophetic, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with the prophetic, but I see a bunch of God's kids that chase the prophetic, is for the very same reason. They want to be captain of their own destiny. They want to make their choices, their decisions. Instead of just relaxing and trusting God, trusting His guidance and His wisdom and His plan. Huh? The fact that your steps are ordered by Him, boy, would that lift a lot of stress off most of us, huh? Yeah. Do you know that there is actually blessing in not knowing? There is blessing in not knowing. Think about this for a moment. The life of Joseph, there in the book of Genesis. We've shared his life over and over in different messages. Could you just see him on his way down to Dothan to check on his brothers? Huh? If he had known beforehand how they were going to treat him, if he had known beforehand that they almost were going to kill him, if he had known beforehand that they would place him in a pit, and thank God for God's plan, because they were going to kill him, that the Midianite traders showed up. If he knows that he was headed to Egypt, he's going to end up on an auction block at a slave market somewhere, that he was going to take and be in Potiphar's house, and then she was going to accuse him of something that actually didn't happen, and he was going to be thrown in prison. He would never, ever come home again. When he said, oh, I'm going to go down there anyway. Huh? He wouldn't have said that, even if they said, you know, Joseph, 13 years from now you get to come out of prison, though. Huh? And it'll still be about 3.5 years into that famine before you see your brothers again. Or not 3.5 years. It'd be after the years of abundance. And then into the famine when they finally start hurting hard enough that you finally get to see your brothers and eventually your dad. Would you have gone under the circumstances? I'll get to be the second in command in all of Egypt. No, I don't think so. I wouldn't have. Even in understanding the eventual outcome. Unless you just kind of like you're a masochist and you love pain. Most of us wouldn't, and I wouldn't have, and that's the truth. But if Joseph had turned back because he knew the story, how different that story would have been. If he had turned back, he had lost the incredible future that God had for him. The world would have lost what they were going to take and benefit from his life. His family would have lost so much. And so actually sometimes it's a good thing for us not to know stuff. It is. God gives us a little word, you know what we often do? We run around and tell everyone, did you hear what God told me? No. I know you need to be really happy for me. This is what God told me. Loose lips sink ships, and that's most of us here. It's the truth. Loose lips sink ships. The devil would be the first one to know God's great plan for our life, and that's the truth. And then we'd meddle in God's plans. We'd spoil them. God gave Joseph a couple dreams, and they were really vague dreams. But he took and had loose lips, and it caused a lot of family problems. It was a part of why they wanted to box him up. They about had it up to here. I mean, the vision of the moon, the stars, whatever, and then the sheaves that bow down, and it's like, yeah, loose lips. We would be marring our own future and our harmony with other people. But nothing can go wrong with us if he's leading us and we're just quietly following him. I'm just following him. I love him. He has a good plan for my life. My steps are ordered by him. He's my Abba Father. He's my Daddy God. We want to pray everything away. That's the absolute truth. I've shared this before. I would do it. I'd do it in a heartbeat. I tried even this week. Did. I know God's my healer. There's times He's healed me. This last week physically has been a tough week. It's like I rode to Casper with my diseased son. He rode with me, and Robin rode with Emily. That should have been the other way around. And he's hacking all the way to Casper, and that's not a short run. It's not like they took him down to City Market, dropped him off, and picked him back up. You know, we breathed a lot of common air. And I'll be jiggered, about 3 days later, it was, oh man, it's the same funky stuff. Yeah, I would pray everything away. If I won the lottery, I mean, what would you do if you won a $200 billion lottery? I mean, let's say that was actually what you had in pocket after it was all over with. What would you do? He'd be like, you know what you do? You play God in people's lives. That's the truth. It's like, yeah, I'd buy them a home. Maybe God wants them to work for a home. You know, it'd be like, you know, I'd pick up all their medical bills and pay off all their bills and their debt and give them some money in the bank. That's noble, isn't it? But I have family that they needed to see that God would provide for them through that thing. And that's the truth. And it's been part of what God is doing in their life. And it brought them into a relationship with Him that they never had. And I would have subverted it all in my kindness. Dear God, I would, as your pastor, I would pray all your stuff away if I could. I'd pray it away. God knows I would. Paul tried it. He had this thorn in the flesh. I don't know what he's thorn in the flesh. Commentators don't even know. They tried to figure it out. Something. Maybe it was just everywhere he went. It was like, man, they tried to stone him. They threw him in jail. You know. And he prayed. 3 times he says, I prayed. And God finally said to him, Paul, quit praying. My grace is sufficient for you. He makes another statement. He said, you know, in the middle of all that, the comfort that I received from the Lord, the very thing that God, the nuggets, in the middle of what I was going through, he said, the comfort that I received is then the comfort that I can share with you. No Joseph, no famine averted in Egypt. No food stored up. Palestine and Egypt devastated by famine. Great numbers would have died. The Hittites probably would have destroyed those that survived. Egypt would have been blotted out. Greece and Rome would have been left in a barbarous state. The history of the world and the Bible would have literally changed, and countless evils would have come, all because God allowed someone to pray Joseph out of his situation. Or God would allow Joseph to pray himself out of his situation. But God wasn't going to allow that to happen. We have to keep our hands off of God's providence. Peter had this great revelation. You're the Christ, did he not? You are the Christ, the Son of the living God. And he's like, oh, Peter, flesh and blood has revealed this thing to you. But then he turns right around and Jesus reveals to him he's headed to the cross. And Peter said, no. And Jesus looks at him and said, "Get behind me, Satan." Peter wanted to keep Jesus away from the cross. I ask you, what if today he had been able to subvert that? What if somehow, they've been like one of them groups, that they snatch somebody up from a cult somewhere, and they take them out somewhere and debrief them, whatever they do. You know what I mean? So we snatched Jesus up and we took him away and we hit him out. And it's like, no, you are not going to the cross. There are a few truths that are more sustaining than this, and that is our times are in God's hands. And yet how few of us today actually believe that. Really? Some of you, I know what you're going through. Do you really believe that God's in the middle of all of that? Or do you not? Do you cry and you wonder where he's at? And God's plan, that really good plan, there are a lot of needs to be that have to happen. The great victory that Joseph obtained wasn't that he came through his difficulties, humility, his training. All by himself, but that he yielded to the purposes and plans of God. And he didn't allow himself to become bitter or angry. He says to his brothers, "What you meant for evil, God meant for good." This horrible thing that you were a part of in my life, God meant it, for he allowed it to happen. He meant it for good, not for evil. Any bitterness would have destroyed God's plan for him. It would have destroyed the Hebrew race. I mean, if you were him, how hard would it be to keep a sweet and free spirit, free from resentment, with such injustice? I want to read a little bit more to you out of Psalms 105:18. Maybe some of you heard me talk about this at times, but you've never really read it. This is a little more insight into Joseph. It says in 18, whose feet they hurt with fetters. You ever seen somebody in leg chains? Joseph was in leg chains. It wasn't like the little shiny handcuffs that we got out there, for penitentiary. And it was like some of those you see from back in the slave days, on those ships, where they have them it's just iron. And then it says, he was laid in iron. If you read the ESV, it says, and his neck was put in a collar of iron. Joseph didn't just have leg chains. And you got those leg chains, you walk like a goose, kind of loud on what you walk like. It's like, it's not like, that's how you have to walk. In leg chains. And then his neck is in a collar of iron. You've seen the pictures, right? You've seen the movies. That's Joseph. That's a little fierce. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. That's a little fierce. I laugh at some of these folks that think it's free hots and cots out there at the penitentiary. Boy, are you severely misinformed. Huh? Bunch of guys that smell like goats. Huh?
That'd be not great.
Yeah, that'd be an upgrade. The small white goats would be an upgrade. You know, you sleep on a mattress that's literally about that thick, and it's not posturepedic by any means. You ever seen black hamburger? Seen it out there, man. They say it's made out of organ meat. I don't know. I never seen black hamburger. They got fish comes from Ecuador, comes in boxes. You open that stuff up, it's like, ooh, dude, man. It's like, we call it says natural fish on the box. We call it unnatural fish. They got unnatural fish and organ meat hamburger. They sleep on a mattress about that thick. There is no pretty painty walls. It's all natural concrete. This winter it got cold out there, and in some of those cells out there, actually have ice in the toilets. You have ice in your toilet at home this winter? They had ice in their toilet. When your clothes come back from the laundry, they're not clean. They stuff a lot of clothes in those wash machines. I mean, you know, some of you guys are trying to get your wife, or you've been taught somehow, you know, white's in one pile and your color's in another. It's all in a sack out there. They just throw sacks in. So your white t-shirt looks like it looks like something you've been wiping the four-wheeler down with. It's not 3 hots in a cot. That's my point. Could you imagine what it was like, though, in Joseph's moment? Huh? And yet it was a part of God's wonderful plan for his life.
Yes,
this incredible plan that God had for him. And he didn't grow morbid or sullen or disheartened or mean. And even as a slave, he accepted his position with cheerfulness and entered heartily into his new life. And you say, how do you know that happened? Because everywhere he goes, he gets promoted. He does his duty so well that he becomes the overseer at his master's home, and then at the prison, and eventually he's vice-regent of all of Egypt. He didn't waste his life weeping over his losses and his misfortunes and plotting for revenge. And actually probably one of the most unmanly and unwomanly emotions is self-pity, and that's the truth. That's real unmanly. That's real unwomanly. He didn't burn out the love in his heart. He didn't brood over his wrong. He looked forward and not back. And I hear people say, I can't help the way I feel. They wrong me. How can I control my reaction, the resentments, the grudge? All you're doing is destroying your life, not theirs. That's the truth. That's all Joseph would have destroyed was his life. That's all David would have destroyed was his life. It's not about what others do. And especially if you understand Jeremiah 29:11. He has a plan for my life. Or you understand Romans 8:28. Romans 8:28 says he causes all things, the good, the bad, the ugly, to work together for good in our lives. He causes it. I don't know how he does it. It's that mystery. But he causes it all to work together. So with hatred all around him, and you got that penitentiary, sometimes it's hard to be the sweet-smelling savor, the light, the salt, because it's negative. I mean, it's negative. It was mom, and it was dad, and it was the judge, and it was my attorney, and, you know, it was my brother, it was my sister. It was this person, it was that person. You know what qualified Joseph for leadership, for rulership? His sweet spirit. That's what qualified him. His sweet spirit qualified him. You can't lord it over a person that's learned to control his reaction to injustice. Let me say that again. You can't lord it over a person that's learned to control their reaction to injustice. Joseph is literally a king at heart. Do you know that? He is. He's literally a king at heart. Do you know our destiny and part of this great plan that God has for our life? Turn with me to Revelation 5:10. We've shared this before. It says, and he's made us unto our God. This is what he's doing in our life right now. It doesn't mean that you've arrived there. Some, I know we haven't arrived yet. But this is what he's doing in our lives. And what he's allowing us to work through. It says he has made us unto our God kings and priests, and we shall reign on the earth. Wow. That's what he's doing in our lives. What journey have you been on as we begin to wind this thing down? What is your mystery? What is your great deep? What has God been using to shape your life? To mold you for your real destiny? How do you fit in God's great plan for Rawlins, Wyoming? Honestly, how do you fit in God's great plan for Rawlins, Wyoming? In this moment, this time in history, that's a part of the whole story. What element would be missing without you? Ask yourself that for a moment. What element would be missing without me? Man, I look around at our spiritual family. You're such a gifted bunch of people. You're such an incredible bunch of people. What element would be missing without you? What would its impact be? If you didn't run with what is your destiny, what impact would it have upon Rawlins? I guarantee you it will have an impact. If you don't run with it, what impact will it have here upon this spiritual family? Because it will have an impact. You just get to see it kind of play out. Joy had a baby, right? So yes, guess what the outcome of that is? Robin had to do the worship today. Huh? Because Joy wasn't doing her part. Robin had to actually have some background vocals to kind of help her. That her and Joy don't have to have. So when you got Joy over here and she's doing her part, and you got Robin over here doing her part, or when the guys are not working like they are today, Courtney, and Cody was here, he could pull the whole thing together himself, or he could work with any one of them. But if you're not here and you're not doing your part, what is its impact? Because I guarantee you there is an impact. Even downstairs with those little kids. If you're not here and you're not doing your part for some of those gals that work down there with those kids, what's the ripple effect? Well, somebody else has got to pick up all the slack. And it's wonderful when I see you doing your part. Anybody again enjoy all the goodies in that coffee room today, huh? Man, Jules and Shannon, again, thank you. I mean, honestly, thank you. For everybody that had a part in making this thing work today, thank you. Alicia, who did the prayer, our guys who took the offering for Levi's work today, thank you. Joseph could have bowed his Joseph could have bowed his neck like a little toad and refused to do his part. He could have. He could have subverted his destiny. Do you know that? God ain't going to answer my prayer. Just bow my little neck, puff it up, be like a little toad. Subvert his destiny. Really? How many times have we done that? So I can't pray my way out. I could bow my neck. And you call me on the phone, I don't have an answer for you. I'll have an answer for you. I can't fix me. How can I fix you? If my life is a great mystery to me, how can I tell you yours? You're going to have to do what I've had to do. You know what I've had to do? Just trust my daddy, God. Yeah. And you know what happens when I do that and when I look backwards in my life? I say, God, you are so smart. Wow. Whoa. Fancy that. Huh? It's like, duh, Elmer. Huh? He's not creator God for, he's that for a reason. I say, man, you are so smart. I told the guys at the penitentiary, if anything I tell you, just faithful. He causes all things in his plan for our life to work together for good. And in the middle of that ugly journey, in the middle of Israel's 40-year wandering in the wilderness, God had a little oases here and there for them. He did. Where they kicked their feet up in the warm sunshine. You know, he gave Elijah some time down at the brook. He sent some locusts and some wild honey and gave him some clear cold water to drink, so he could get healed up from Jezebel and her crowd before he sent him back out again. He's faithful. So we have a song I want to play. Maybe one to follow that. We're going to play a song. It's a song that came across because of Rick. It's a great song called Stand Amazed. And let it be the closing moments of what I've shared today. He's an amazing God. He's an amazing God. And he has a plan for your life. And it's a good one. You can rest in it.